Welcome to the first series of informational videos on invasive species that the Polk County Land and Water Resources will be putting together. My name is Eric, and I'm a conservation planner, and I tend to allocate some of my time towards controlling invasive species. And today we are going to be trying to eradicate a small stand of giant knotweed. Giant knotweed is a fairly aggressive perennial, and you can identify it because the leaves are 10 to 12 inches long, fairly large. This is a fast-growing species and very invasive. Spreads by rhizomes, seed, and cut stems, and so forth. Today we're going to be demonstrating the control method of stem injection. We've got two stem injection systems. One is an actual stem injector. The other is a new prototype injection system that targets the rhizomes of the plant. So it's actually a green node injection system. So what we're going to do is, for the green node injection system, we're going to need to cut this stand down as close to the ground as possible so that we can get the needle down into the actual rhizome itself. If we were using the stem injection system on this entire stand, we would leave the stand of knotweed stand, and no cutting would need to be involved. So we are going to take a moment to cut this stand down, and then I'll introduce the two injection systems and we'll proceed with the chemical treatment. Okay, we've now cut down the giant knotweed. I'm going to introduce a few of the tools that we're going to use and what I did use to cut down the stand of knotweed here. Lopping shears, pretty important for cutting the knotweed as close to the ground as possible. Next are the injection systems that we're going to use. The first one's going to be a prototype from Green Shoots LLC. They're a company out of St. Paul, and they were kind enough to send us this prototype to try. This is the rhizome injection system. You've got the bottle here. It actually portions out the dosage in this cylinder here, and you can deposit up to 5 mils of herbicide by adjusting it. The needle is fairly long because that green node that we're hoping to deposit the herbicide in is below the ground. So this is the Green Shoots rhizome injection system. Next, this is the stem injection system from JK Injection Systems out of Washington. Similar in design, but very different location of application. This has a much shorter needle, as you can see, and is intended to inject herbicide into the hollow stem. I believe it's got a 7-ounce reservoir for herbicide, and with one pump of the trigger it will deposit 5 milliliters of herbicide. So those are the two injection systems. Measuring out the herbicide for these small applications, it's important to have a syringe. It helps with accurately measuring quantities of herbicide and a place to mix it. So what we're going to do is prepare now to start the stem injection process. And what we'll need to do is, first, it's important to mention that personal protective equipment in all herbicide applications is very important and required by law. So follow the instructions on the label of the herbicide that you're using as to the appropriate personal protective equipment you'll need. And for the herbicide that we're using, it requires shoes plus socks, long pants, long sleeves, chemical resistant gloves, and when mixing, I eye protection. And for stem injections and rhizome injections, I'm going to be using eye protection anyway, because you're going to be depositing herbicide into the stem and rhizome where it's under pressure, and sometimes you'll get herbicide squirting in places you don't want it. So eye protection is very important. So I will be wearing eye protection. I left one stem of giant knotweed stand to demonstrate how the JK injection system works. And again, I'm going to put on my eye protection. And as I said before, this JK injection system is intended to be used on the stem. And the location of injection should be between ground level and the third node on the plant. So as I identify where the nodes are, we've got 1 here, 2 here, and 3 here. So we don't want to inject any higher than this node here. Okay? So we're going to inject in between these 2 nodes. And the reason for that is that the closer you are to the roots with herbicide, the better, because the longer distance that herbicide has to travel to the roots, the less effective it will be. So in this case, we will inject it towards the top here, because this is a hollow stem, and I like to use it as a reservoir. So if you inject it towards the bottom, you may lose the herbicide that you injected. So I always like to inject it towards the top. It'll fall down towards the bottom. You stick the injection system in through the hollow stem and pull the trigger. 5 milliliters are now deposited in this stem, and you can go on throughout the stand and inject the rest of the stems. This particular stand, we're only demonstrating the stem injection system. We're actually going to be using the rhizome injection system on this particular stand of knotweed. So I'm going to prepare this now and fill it with herbicide, and we'll get a closer look at how this green shoots rhizome injection system really works. Okay, we're now set up with the green shoots rhizome injection system, and there's a number of different herbicides that you could use for injection, and glyphosate or Roundup or equivalents with that same ingredient, glyphosate, are most common. The only problem with glyphosate that I found is it induces rhizome dormancy fairly quickly, and you'll notice for up to 1 growing season following treatment that it appears that the stand is dead, but then in the 2nd year following treatment, you'll have regrowth. So it induces sort of a rhizome dormancy, and we're trying a different herbicide for stem injection habitat, and it's a Mazapure, and it seems to be more effective when foliar applied to Japanese and giant knotweed, and we're going to try it with a rhizome injection. So we're going to get started here, and again, we want to inject the rhizome of this particular clump of knotweed, and we're going to be depositing it far into the root. So this area here that we're touching is called the septum, and you want to punch through that. Punch through the septum and into the green node and deposit that herbicide. Come back up and we'll do the next one. And in this one, we're depositing 2 mils of herbicide because this is larger stalks. Yeah, and see, we got a little bit of a splashback on that one, and there again, that is why I'm wearing eye protection. And we'll continue doing this throughout this stand. It's important to mention when you're treating giant Japanese knotweed that if you're cutting any of the green stems, that they be left on site for a period of time until they dry out, because they can regenerate roots from each one of those nodes that you see along the stem there. And if you move those to a location that they're allowed to stay moist, and they could regenerate a whole new stand of knotweed. So we'd encourage anyone doing this at home to cut the stems, pile them, and dry them out for as long as it takes for them to get brown, and then burn them in an appropriate site that can be monitored for any future growth. We're going to continue rhizome injecting this site. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you find Japanese knotweed or giant knotweed any sites, please contact your local Land and Water Resources Department, and staff will be happy to help you or guide you in any control methods. Thank you.